And it really goes to prove that if you don't measure something, nothing will be done about it.
And we have to make New Jersey's business climate more attractive for entrepreneurs.
We are Wonder Women. Like, look at all these women and what they've done and what they've tried. And even if they didn't succeed, they gave it a shot.
I don't think it's fair to put a $4 or $5 billion price tag on middle-class New Jerseyans.
We've got a great lifestyle here, and I don't want to see it ruined because politicians can't manage our finances properly.
Welcome to As a Matter of Fact. I'm Lisa Allen, and we're filming from Hometown TV Studios in Summit, New Jersey. Today we're talking about New Jersey, technology, and jobs. I have the pleasure of speaking with entrepreneur and software developer John Carini, founder of both iEnterprises and Social Smart Software. He also runs Morris Tech Meetup Group, one of the largest technology entrepreneur groups in the state of New Jersey with 1,500 members. And if that isn't enough, John runs the iEnterprise Technology Accelerator and is very interested in making New Jersey the next Silicon Valley technology hub. And that is why we're here today. Thanks so much, John, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
So we just met today, but we have a mutual friend. And the reason why you ended up getting invited is because I've been meeting with policymakers, and different business heads across New Jersey, and my biggest concern is we have a broken transportation fund, we have a ballooning pension cost. So Jersey, I feel like, is at the fork in the road. Either we're going to go into a direction where we're going to be bankrupt in 20 years, or we're on the precipice of something big. And I said to my girlfriend, why aren't we talking about more technology in New Jersey? I feel like we have an opportunity to be kind of like that Silicon Valley for New Jersey. And she said, I have the perfect person for you to meet. His name is John Carini. So I want to talk about your background, learn a little bit more about you and what you do. And then we're going to talk about the Morris Tech Meetup Group and how you've been making inroads with New Jersey and go from there. So tell me a little bit about you.
Yes, so as you mentioned, I'm a software developer, and my first job out of college was actually a computer programmer, right? Mm-hmm. And then I decided I wanted to create my own software, and I actually, on a bet from my wife, I created my first application, which I sold globally. It was a CRM application. Later, I actually sold that to a company in Silicon Valley, worked in Silicon Valley for a while, came back to New Jersey and started two other companies. One is, again, a CRM company, which stands for Customer Relationship Management, competitor to Salesforce.com and products like that. Also has a mobile platform that helps mobilize business applications. And then I have another product that's a social media engagement and compliance product that helps highly regulated companies engage with social media and follow all the different rules and regulations. Yeah. So that's quite avant-garde, that product. Yeah. And then I'm also, recently I've also started the iEnterprises Technology Accelerator, which helps take ideas and make them real products, which is very much in line with helping New Jersey succeed. Right.
You said accelerators. What's an accelerator? Just for the viewers.
So, you know, typically an incubator is where you take a product and build it for the first time and turn it into what most people call the most minimum viable product. Sorry about that. And a minimum viable product is the minimum product you could sell in the marketplace. Okay. So that's an incubator, and then an accelerator actually takes that minimum viable product and then brings it to the marketplace, or helps bring it to the marketplace in a much bigger way. More focused on sales and marketing than the actual development of the product, but not solely focused on sales and marketing. So you can look at step one as an incubator, and step two is the accelerator, where you really bring something out to the marketplace.
Why is an incubator important?
Well, an incubator is very important because there's many would-be entrepreneurs that have ideas but don't really know how to proceed with them. So maybe you have an idea and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. You don't know how to build it. You don't know how to market it. And an incubator gets you started and helps you do that.
Got it.
And you know, I should mention that as you mentioned, I run the Morris Tech Meetup, which meets at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and we have a lot of these entrepreneurs actually speak at our events there at Fairleigh Dickinson.
Okay. What is the Morris Tech Meetup, and what is a meetup?
Yeah, so meetups are very interesting. What it is it's actually a site, meetup.com, and if you go on that site, you'll find people meeting about various different topics of interest, and they're in-person meetups. So unlike today's age of social media, this is in person, and you could look at meetup.com as a social media site that brings people together for in-person meetups.
Right.
But the vast majority of the meetups that you'll see are technology focused, or at least a good portion of them are. Okay. And we run one of the largest technology focused meetup groups in New Jersey. There's another great one in Hoboken. There's some in New York City as well as Silicon Valley. Anyway, it's a place where like-minded people can network and talk about their ideas and figure out how to build them.
Right. It's interesting because I run a lot of meetings and I can't get 1,500 people to a meeting. So that's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, typically at a meeting we have about 1,500 members. We'll get more than 100 at each meeting.
Wow,
So we pack the room,
Yeah.
more or less. And the structure of the meetup is a little bit like Shark Tank. We'll have a few entrepreneurs come in and they'll pitch their idea. And then we're a little bit nicer than Shark Tank. We don't blow them away with...
Are all 100 people basically giving opinions on...
Yeah, all 100 people are the sharks. You could look at it
all
that
right.
way. But it's a little more, a little nicer than the sharks you see on TV. Although I respect them, they're definitely a little tough.
Edgier.
Yeah, a little edgier.
Yeah.
So then we'll help it'll be more about how we can help them refine their idea and make it better. We'll do that, and then we'll usually have a keynote speaker, which is a very successful entrepreneur that has typically sold their company for hundreds of millions of dollars. So the thing about hearing from that person is you hear their real life experiences, how they did it, the mistakes they made, what to do, what not to do, and hearing real life situations like that is incredibly valuable.
Who goes to these meetups? Are they young? Are they, what's the age range?
Yeah, so it's across the board. We'll have some very young entrepreneurs that are even in college or have graduated from college and are looking to start their own business. Then we'll have, on the other end of the spectrum, we'll have investors. Some of the investors have invested in technology all their lives. Others maybe have worked on Wall Street and now they're looking for something else to do, so they're becoming technology investors. And then there'll be developers, people who are networking for looking for jobs, and service providers as well, people who provide services that help entrepreneurs and small companies.
Got it. Okay. How is that the competition in terms of New York? Because you said there was a meetup in New York. Do you draw somewhat from the same pool, or is there just enough talent in New Jersey alone to have enough interest?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of the talent that is in New York is really from New Jersey. Yeah.
All right,
so,
all right.
and the reason
Score
why
for Jersey.
the reason why I created the group, I live in Chatham, and I created the group so that there was a place to network that was close to home, right? And I'm old enough where I remember when we would have to fly to California to network about technology.
Yeah.
Like we would have to go to Silicon Valley. Then later, Boston became a hub, and now we have Silicon Alley, which is New York, which is a hub. And I created this group so we could network locally, in the hopes that someday we'll have Silicon Jersey, and I know that's something you really want to talk about.
Yeah, I do. So quickly, how do people find you on the Morris Tech Meetup, just if they're interested?
Yep, it's meetup.com/Morris-Tech.
Okay.
Meetup.com/Morris-Tech.
Okay.
And you can just go to meetup.com and search for Morris Tech as well.
Okay. And we'll make sure to put that up on the screen for you, so people can find you. I find that Jersey there's so much potential here. We can generate a lot of revenue if we really went after jobs. Where are we? I feel like, is Jersey ripe for technology and creating a whole new Silicon Valley here? I know that Rutgers is trying. There's some other, they're the only venture capitalist that's here with significant money, you were saying earlier.
New York Venture Partners is a newcomer to New Jersey, and they're focused on creating a technology hub in Newark, New Jersey. And they're well funded, and in my opinion, the best funded venture capital group in New Jersey right now. We could use more.
We could use more. So that's the question, like Silicon Valley's it's concentrated. So Jersey has a lot, we're spread out between Philly and all the way up to, even to Boston, I feel like there's a whole line of tech companies. How ripe are we to be the next Silicon Valley, and what are the challenges?
We certainly have a lot of the ingredients. So we have the talent, which is really the most important thing. As we mentioned before, most of the people the talent for Silicon Alley in New York are really people living in New Jersey. So the talent is here. I think that our geography is good, and I think we have a lot of cool towns, if you will, like Hoboken, like Morristown, like Jersey City, like Montclair, and it's important that it be a cool place to be. And that's, obviously New York is cool, and it's gotten a lot of millennials to, kind of go there and start their companies there. There's no reason why our cool towns can't do the same thing, because the talent is certainly here.
It's here. Would you see it as concentrated, or what are the steps you're taking to help build the environment for a Silicon Valley here?
Yeah, so the Accelerator is really my stab at trying to do something to help New Jersey become more technology focused. So my company actually created an accelerator, which is iEnterprises. It's iEnterprises.com, and you can apply if you have an idea about a product you'd like to build. You can actually apply to become part of our technology accelerator right there on our website. So that's my little play, as well as the Tech Meetup. I think we need to network. We need to get together and together, move forward with things like accelerators. The schools are helping a lot. Like FDU has helped us quite a bit. As you mentioned, Rutgers is in partnership with Newark Venture Partners, and Stevens is also doing quite a bit. So,
do you do anything with NJIT also, or?
I don't personally, but I know there's a technology accelerator there, and they're certainly moving things forward as well. So we have a lot of the ingredients, I think, to become Silicon Jersey. However, there's some inhibitors as well.
What are those?
And one of them is certainly the government, and the way taxes work in New Jersey is not conducive to venture capital. And I could explain it in detail, but
give us the highlights. How is it a challenge?
There's several things, but the main one that comes out to me is the way that income tax works here in New Jersey. There's no such thing as long-term capital gains here in New Jersey, and venture capitalists are all about long-term capital gains.
And what does that mean?
Long-term gain is a gain that happens over more than 2 years, or more than a year, according to federal tax law.
So because an incubator is an investment, right, it's long-term.
And typically you'd be taxed less on income that came from a long-term investment. And maybe we could even take a step back and say, what is a venture capitalist, right? So a venture capitalist is basically a group of investors or a single investor that invests in technology. And typically they would invest money in return for some sort of equity stake in the company. And then another form of investment are angel investors. And typically angel investors invest prior to venture capitalists. In fact, the venture capital investment is becoming much, much more difficult these days to attain. So the angel investors are typically individuals, but they sometimes also work in groups. They'll step in and make an investment in a much smaller company in return for some sort of equity, in the hopes that someday that company gets sold and they receive a return on their investment. So it's a it's a long-term play, and there's a lot of altruistic, let's call it, features about venture capital and angel investment. Really, they're creating a company and they're creating jobs through their investment, and that's obviously very important.
It is. Why are there less venture capitalists? Or why is it getting harder?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is that there's more competition, so there actually are more startups.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. But also they're becoming more risk adverse. So the earlier stage that an investment is made, the more risk is involved with that investment. If you invest in an idea, there's a very good chance it will fail. But hopefully, whoever failed at that idea learned something, and their next venture will be successful.
Right. So let's go back to being in an environment where Jersey can attract more tech companies. What else? So you said the government, the taxation. What would have to happen to make it more friendly?
Yeah, well, I think that the biggest thing would be to bring money here. Okay. So it's kind of like show me the money. If there were more venture capitalists and more angel investors wanting to invest their money here, that would be good. And the government could certainly either create tax code that makes that more attractive, or make some investments themselves. And there's a little bit of a chicken and an egg as well. You need good startups to invest in. And right now in the area, those startups are very much focused in New York. Right. So they're joining these incubators and accelerators in New York, and the investors from New Jersey, especially the angel investors, for the most part are focusing their efforts to small technology firms in New York to make their investments, not New Jersey. And what's interesting is the investors and maybe even the people in the startup may have come from New Jersey.
Right, that is. How did Bloomberg create Silicon Alley in New York and so successfully? Yeah,
he did a fantastic job in my opinion. Yeah. He was he saw that financial services was not in decline, but is shrinking. Not, it's shrinking, or at least the acceleration of growth has stopped to some degree, and he saw technology as a place where growth should occur moving forward. So he created an environment that made it very conducive for startups to come to New York. And the money was already there. Maybe that's something they had, that, there's a lot of money here in New Jersey, but New York was already kind of the financial capital of the world. So, so they leveraged that, and they created really lots of incubators, lots of accelerators, lots of little tax breaks and programs to bring startups into New York. They came, the investors were already there, and it kind of exploded. It's a great thing. And that helps New Jersey as well. We get the trickle down of that. And in fact, in the long term, we could benefit greatly, because if you look what happened with financial services companies all went to New York. They created their corporate headquarters. They grew, and they got so big that there wasn't enough space for them in New York. And not only that, the space got very expensive. So many of them have already come to New Jersey, and many of them are based here in New Jersey. However, they maintain offices in New York. Right. That could happen with these technology companies as well. So we could see the overflow from New York, but I would prefer if New Jersey was a place where people wanted to go, just on its own. Right. That this was Silicon Jersey. People wanted to come here and come here first, not go through New York. Right. So, but both is fine too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that you mentioned tax breaks, and so there's a lot of back and forth. Do we need to give tax breaks? Do we not need to give tax breaks? So the argument is made that for Meadowlands, for example, it's not technology, but they want to build a mall there, and they want about $1 million worth of tax breaks. And there are people that say, how do we even know what the return on investment is for that? Are we really getting our money back for that? So the argument is against giving the tax breaks. But then, and if you look at California and Boston and New York, that's where tech is headed, but they don't always need tax breaks to get there. They pay some of the highest tax. But then at the same token, you're like, all right, but if we don't have a conducive tax code for these tech companies, are they really going to come? So what is your opinion on that? I think it's a tricky fine line.
Yeah, I would say that in larger companies, it's very difficult to know where your tax break is going. So if you take the case of the mall, I don't know the answer to where does that money end up. Does it really create jobs, or does it, go into, some other pocket somewhere?
Right.
Whereas with smaller companies, I think that the money definitely creates jobs. And I think tax breaks for smaller companies is a great thing, and they're often ignored. And I understand why. Like, if you give a tax break to this large conglomerate, maybe you could, the government could make a play that could create 1,000 jobs, versus if you give a tax break to a small company, you're talking 1, 2, 10, 20, 50 jobs at a time. But I do think that the money that goes to these smaller companies ends up creating many more jobs than the larger companies. And that's, it's really an argument for these startups and incubators and accelerators and creating an environment that people want to start companies. Part of that is tax breaks. I've run small companies, and there's many times at the end of the year where you end up paying tax, and that tax would have gone directly to a new employee. So the government would have got their money.
Right.
It just would have come through that employee's paycheck instead of directly from the company, goes to the government and kind of does nothing. And you can argue it does something, but a lot of it does nothing.
Yeah. It's such a challenge. I think that small businesses are really the way for America to rebuild itself, because corporations are getting smaller. They're offshoring, which we'll get to, because even you've had to offshore. You were talking about it off camera. And in order for us to flourish, there's so much technology. Again, this is a double-edged sword. We're going to lose jobs over technology, but new jobs will be created. Yeah. But I think that in the big scheme of things, it's going to be in the form of small businesses. The more small businesses we have, the more successful we will be globally. Let's talk about offshoring. You've had to offshore as well. Why? Because
one thing I'll say is that in terms of technology jobs, the country's insatiable. I think if you're a technologist and you have current skills, you will find a job.
Okay.
So I think the main reason why many companies offshore is just they can't fill their positions. And then the competition for highly skilled, especially developers and highly technical people is big.
Well, let me ask you this though. Is it that they can't find the people, or is it because they feel that the cost is too great with health insurance and everything else? A little bit of both?
It's definitely both. And some companies just can't afford it at all, where there's a price for everything, right? So the cost for hiring a highly skilled technical person is certainly very high now.
Right.
And they're very much in demand, and that's a great thing. So I think that the solution, and there doesn't even have to be a solution to offshoring. We can coexist, but how we can do better is to educate more people and have more skilled technicians in the workforce. And I think that's the ultimate, the best thing we can do here in New Jersey and in the country at large to help with having less offshoring, is to have the right skills so that people don't have to offshore, so companies don't have to offshore.
That's a great point. So what do I tell my 10 and 12-year-old? What kind of skills do they need to arm themselves, or what can we start thinking about today for tomorrow, for their jobs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of STEM and STEM education and training in technology, whether it be engineering or software or other areas. I think that technology is certainly the future, and
cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity is a great space. And then another one you'll hear of is IoT, the Internet of Things.
What is that?
All these little devices that are connected to the Internet. Someday everything will be connected to the Internet, and it'll be smart, and it'll help you. It'll help you understand different aspects of what it does and do these things automatically sometimes. So I know artificial intelligence is an area that is very big, and I know you wanted to talk about that, Lisa.
Yeah, well, we love artificial intelligence because it's smart and it's on every device that we have. I mean, that's how we capture the cookies, right? When I go to a website when I'm shopping, it remembers it and it goes back to it, which is very convenient. Amazon does it, it's convenient. But it's getting to a point, 60 Minutes had a whole special on it about how there's robots that look like people, they want it to be smarter than people, they want to outperform people. Where are we headed with that? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, so on the one hand, like, there's smart technology and then there's artificial intelligence. So smart technology, I think, is what you were just describing, where you would search for something and then you go to another website and you'll see an ad for that thing you just searched for, right?
Right.
Versus artificial intelligence, which actually thinks. So it thinks like a person. It's hard to imagine, but thinks like a person and actually figures out what it is you really want, and then maybe shows you what you really want, and you'll buy it, right?
Right.
And it has massive implications. And I've dabbled in some of my software products with artificial intelligence. We actually did an integration with IBM Watson, which was it was a real avant-garde artificial intelligence offerings, actually they call it cognitive computing as well. I think those two terms are somewhat interchangeable. And what we were able to do is when people are interacting with their email and their CRM, which is customer relationship management system, we're able to alert them that they should be following up on a certain lead, that this is an important person because this is the type of lead that you're interested in. It's in the right industry, it's in the right sector, the company's of the right size, all sorts of things like that. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, and where it can go is scary.
Guess.
It really is scary. You know, how far will this go and how fast? And if there's one thing I will say, it's that artificial intelligence and cognitive computing have moved rather slowly. And, you know, we've seen technology march along very quickly. That space has moved a little bit more slowly than others. Now, I wonder if if we're at the tip of the iceberg, and then once we get to a certain point, it moves more quickly. I don't know the answer to that, but if it moves quickly, we could end up with, machines that are kind of thinking and alive before you know it.
It's Terminator.
Yeah.
The real life Terminator.
Hopefully they'll be good machines,
Right.
and they
Right.
they'll like us, and it won't be like Terminator.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. So what can we expect from you coming for next year? What should we be looking out for?
Yeah, so the technology accelerator that I'm running hopefully will ramp up, and hopefully we'll have lots of startups working with us in the technology accelerator. And actually, I'm very interested in AI and cognitive computing, and I'm working on making our products at iEnterprises much more intelligent, so that they can help you do your job very quickly and easily, and almost do your job for you. I know that's where it gets a little scary.
It does get scary.
And the Tech Meetup as well is growing. And
why don't you give us the website one more time?
yeah, so it's meetup.com/Morris Tech, Morris-Tech.
Okay. Do you have to be a tech person to go?
Oh, no. There's definitely general business people. And by the way, it's live entertainment. It's always fun. You go, it's like you're on the set of Shark Tank, right? You get to see startups pitch their ideas, and they're always interesting. And even though you might not be a technologist or even a business person, sometimes those are the people that have the best suggestions for the technologists, because they look at it from a completely different perspective. So if you're not a technologist and you want some entertainment, it's a great thing to attend one of the events as well.
All right. I encourage it.
Absolutely.
If you can believe it, we have wound down our time already.
Wow.
I know. So we'll have to have you back. Next year, Hometown is actually doing the Year of Technology.
Great.
So we'd love to have you come back, and we'll talk about the Morristown Meetup some more, or the Morris Tech Meetup, sorry.
Yeah.
More, and we'll go from there.
Sounds great. Thanks so
Thank you
much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on today. And we want to thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in today's topic or other great programs produced at Hometown TV, check out our website at hometowntv.org or our Facebook page, Hometown TV, or even subscribe to our Hometown TV YouTube channel. See you next time on As a Matter of Fact.